If we haven't met, I'm Jennifer Elliott, and this is Yin, so deep stretches. And I feel like this was really for my back, my hips, and a little bit of twisting. So again, we're going to use a bolster or something similar. A couple of blankets will suffice. Definitely a strap, and you can grab blocks in any way that makes this work for you. So our first pose, we're going to get set up in a reclined butterfly, but I'm going to do it a little differently today. And so you're going to have your bolster or 2 blocks, blankets, whatever you've decided to set this up as. And we'll get started with our feet on the bolster. Now, if this is too extreme for you right away, some days this just feels like so much for me. So if putting your feet on the prop is extreme with the knees wide, you can take your feet and sort of pass the prop, kind of almost like you were doing knees on the bolster, and you just bring the soles of the feet together. So again, I'm going to be doing feet on the prop, knees wide, and then you just find something similar. We're going to be in this posture for 5 minutes. So I'll use a timer on my phone. It'll give us a nice bell sound for when we're done. And when you get set up here, just find a place for you. You can move closer or further from the feet. Arms can move out to the sides, palms open. Let the eyes close. And just take a few moments to get into your space. When we start to add time into these poses, something that might feel good for a few breaths, a few seconds, may be much different when you get into 4 or 5 minutes. So remember, it's target area, not specific pose. So if this particular pose begins to bother the lower back, make changes. There's no need to struggle in that way. And just fully start to drop in. Let the jaw unhinge. Let the tongue just slacken the mouth. When we're under pressure and stress, real or imaginary, your neck muscles, your low back muscles, they engage, they tense to help you to fight, flight, or freeze. And unconsciously, subconsciously, these areas tend to grip a lot just to maneuver through any little stressors throughout the day. So by unhinging the jaw, maybe even consciously yawning, you start to tell the body that you can relax. You're in a safe space. You can start to let go of the stress of the day. And as the jaw slacks or you take a yawn, let the eyes have that same feeling of sinking, of melting into their sockets. Feel softness across the forehead. The base of the skull gets heavy into the mat. The shoulders draw down, the hands get heavy. And just notice how you feel. We're already halfway through this pose, so if you need to make any changes, please do. Otherwise, we'll commit to stillness here for these last 2.5 minutes. And in that time, you can just start to get familiar with your breath. And so as you take your natural inhale, notice the body rise on the breath. And as you take your natural exhale, notice the body grounding and surrendering. And just like you're riding the breath like a wave, inhale, float up on the breath. Exhale, melt down on the breath. And just continue that gentle rocking, rising and falling. And if your wave, your water feels too turbulent, slow the breath down. So it feels like a very gentle, easygoing, rocking breath. If you did a practice before, it may be a little easy just to melt into this posture, but if this is your first moment, you've been able to stop today, you may notice the nervous system still fighting this ability to release. And so if the muscles tense or the breath becomes shallow, just meet yourself where you are. Give yourself a little time to really settle into the practice. Got 5 breaths left. All right, now move slow. You can take your hands to your outer knees, guide the knees together. Take a moment just to rest. I like to rest my feet on the props. And don't get rid of your props. We're going to use them for the next few poses. And so I'm just going to take this bolster and scooch it in, lift the hips like it's bridge, and I'm going to have a seat, my hips on this bolster. So again, if you don't have a bolster or you want to explore with the height, grab a couple of blankets, a couple of blocks, whatever you can use underneath you. And then once you've got yourself set up, cross your right ankle over your left knee, a nice figure 4. You can stay there if you want. We'll end the pose here. But see if you can just raise that left leg off the ground. Now, you're welcome to grab onto the thigh to thread the needle. But what I like about the prop is you can use gravity, and sort of gravity just takes those legs towards you. We're going to stay with the 5 minutes, but we'll split this pose in half. So I'll give you kind of that halfway point when we make changes to where we're at. So the props underneath the pelvis are completely optional. So you might find that it makes more sense to do this flat on your back, and that's fine. But otherwise, you can really let gravity do the work for you. Continue to unhinge the jaw. And keep that left leg bent, or you can even straighten it, continuing to aid gravity. And gravity is our friend. It's what helps us feel solid and safe. Connected to Mother Earth. The more grounded we feel, the more stable we feel. And so with each exhale, just feel this feeling of letting your body melt to the earth. Whatever shape that takes, whatever sort of path of least resistance. So if the hips tip over a little bit, fine, let them. It's less about getting particular with these poses. More about just seeing how time, gravity, that weight in the body starts to affect your postures. 1 more minute here. And your breath might be a little bit impacted with the legs, but just see if you can continue that smooth inhale and exhale again. Just riding the breath. As you observe the breath, start to really investigate. If you find that you're more with the inhale, you might be more in that stress response. The more we can even the inhale and exhale, the calmer the mind becomes, the more clear. And the longer the exhale, the more we start to settle in. All right, now you can always stay here or halfway through this pose, but otherwise we're going to set the left foot on the floor and just let the right hip open. So it's similar to maybe being almost in a bridge pose. that right leg in a figure four. Or if this doesn't make sense in your body, stay with that thread the needle. And close your eyes. Just feel that gentle pull of gravity on all parts of the body. Now with all of these postures, I might give you ideas of where you might feel these. If you might feel them in your pelvis, your outer hip. We don't want to feel this discomfort in the lower back. But everyone's going to experience this different places. So just check in for you. If it doesn't feel like a healthy stretch, you feel any sort of signal to back off, listen to that. And like less than a minute here. We'll call it 10 breaths if you want to count your breath. Just a few more breaths here. Set your right foot down onto the floor. Supported bridge, or you're flat on your back if that makes more sense. Cross your left ankle over your right knee, figure four. Do the same thing again. So you're going to move towards thread the needle first, either using gravity with these props, or you can hold your leg if you'd like. Again, we'll split this up. So we've got 2.5 minutes here. And the second part of our pose is an additional 2.5. Begin to close your eyes again, just helping to shut off any external distractions. When we think about the field of the mind, we have these chitta vrittis, or these fluctuations of the mind. And the mind can be a few places. The mind can be in the future and planning, in the past and remembering. It can be sort of in a nothing state, like when you're sleeping in a dreamless state. And so notice where your thoughts are. Are they in the present? Have they moved to the future or past? Or are you in that state of nothingness? Which most likely not. But the more you bring your attention to your thoughts, to your breath, the less you're focused on anything else. And one by one, we weed out those thoughts, that turbulent mind, that chitta vritti, just like the wave of the breath slows down. The turbulence of the mind slows down. There's less thoughts, there's less waves. And let's imagine that we were trying to see clearly our own reflection in that turbulent water. And the more we stared at our reflection, we calmed the water down. The easier that water becomes, the more clearly we see what's happening within. The more present we become. Continue to find that reflection. Just visualize yourself slowing your breath down, slow the rocking of the water down. So all you see is that glassy water with your clear image and that nice and settled mind. And you can stay as you are, or plant your right foot under the ground, finding that open figure four. We'll be here for these last 2.5 minutes. Let's see if we can really keep the breath even, Samavriti. And I usually do 4 and 4. It's actually been proven scientifically that 5.5 seconds is a really great place to be to calm the mind. So let's see if we can try 5 and 5, just sort of push it a little bit. So take an inhale through the nose for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale out the nose, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale for 5. And exhale for 5. Continue on your own. Inhale. And exhale. All right, now set your foot down onto the floor, supported bridge. This may be enough for you. You might even want to add a height if you want a blanket or block underneath. But if this is okay for your back, straighten both of your legs out. Toes are up. And you can reach those arms back behind you. If this is not for your back, whether the legs are straight or bent, then just be flat on your back with knees bent and falling into one another. And we'll do 2 minutes here, so it'll be a little less time. You can reach hands back, you can grab elbows. And remember, less is more, even if you don't feel this really deep stretch. Adding that time, that gravity, that will intensify. You might even feel those hip flexors. Getting a nice deep stretch underneath the internal organs, really deep inside the abdomen. Take a bigger breath. If something like this is not for you, but you want to do something similar, you might do Sphinx on your belly. Starting to get into those front lines. But we always want the low back to be comfortable and happy. All right, your last 5 breaths. Okay, so go ahead and bend your knees, go slow. Now I'm going to keep this prop underneath me. I really like this for the next couple of poses, but if you're feeling in any way like this is too extreme on your lower back, just remove it. So I'm grabbing a strap. We're going to do sort of final stretch as I call it, or Supta Padangusthasana. I'm going to stay on the bolster again. That's completely optional. And I already have a pre-made loop in my strap. Just because I have a super long strap, and when I was doing this in my own practice, I was honestly lazy. My hands didn't feel like holding the strap the whole time. So I'm taking the strap over my right foot. I have a bit of a loop here in my strap, and I'm just going to set my elbows into the strap, palms together, and move those hands back in a way that sort of gives a nice stretch for my triceps. It's helping my hamstrings. And then if I'm comfortable, I can straighten that left leg out, and I can let it hover if I want to go a little bit more into the hip flexors, or I can draw it down. So I'm going to set our timer. I'm going to give you some options if you need. We'll stick with the 2 minutes. So it's another reason why it might be nice to find a way to loop the strap. If you hold it for 2 minutes, it might get a little tiring. So sliding it into the elbows makes it a nice passive stretch here for leg and for arms. But again, our target area is getting into the hamstrings. Some of you get to double or triple it up with the triceps or with the hip flexors. But if low back is affecting you at all, just remove that prop under the pelvis. And just see if you can release the pelvis. All those muscles around them. So moving into the hamstrings, the hip flexors, deep into the front thigh. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm sitting a lot more lately. And so my hamstrings, my low back, my pelvis definitely are tight. So gently we're stretching, trying to release their grip on our lower back. And if you don't have a strap, you can get creative with a towel or a tie, a belt. Or even just hold your leg. If the left foot is off the floor, you might lift it an inch and really stretch it forward. You can always add height to this prop. I just like to stay at a happy medium so my back is happy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on this bolster, and I have the strap short enough that it's kind of over my elbow. I'm actually going to slip it up to my shoulder like it's a purse, and that hand is going to go under my head or behind me, so cactus arms, or like I'm moving into a sit-up. And then I'm going to move the leg out to the right. You might have to adjust the strap tightness, but we want to get into the inner thigh. I'm staying on the bolster, so I'm getting into the left hip flexor as well. And I'm going to add that 2 minutes. So we're staying on our 2 minute time. So target area, if you're making any changes or trying to think about this pose, is stretching that inner thigh. Maybe you're adding the shoulder and the hip flexor. You can tighten it up or even use furniture, whatever you have. You can reach that left arm behind you if you want to continue the left side body, even stretching through that left heel. Now this is sort of just natural for my body. If that table was not in the way, I probably wouldn't go any lower than that anyway. And so look at your body, especially if you're on a prop. We don't want this right leg to go lower than the height of the pelvis. We want to keep the pelvis kind of neutral and just open it from there. So most of us, it's going to be about a 45-degree angle. If it goes lower than that, really what just happens is we twist our lower back. You can keep driving through that left heel if you'd like. And just coming back to the breath. The breath is our friend. The breath doesn't lie. So the breath is like that friend that always tells you the truth, right? Whether you want to hear it or not. And so if you come back to the breath and it's changed from before, it's more labored or shallow, you can ask your breath what's going on within. Is it your thoughts? Is it the physical sensation? What's made that change? All right. Bring your leg to center. And then we're going to cross it over. Now, if you were on blocks, I forgot to mention, you may have to adjust your hips a little bit. 2 blocks are nice, but just cross the right leg over. You could do the same sliding over the shoulder and put the hand under the head. I usually start that way, but I may end up holding my strap after a little while. So we'll continue with those 2 minutes. You're in a twist. If this isn't your twist, take a twist that works for you. If you want to place your hands under your head like a sit-up, that's fine too. Now, adding the height gives us a little bit more of a hip flexor stretch, but we want to be real kind to our lower back. That doesn't feel like where we want to be. If the strap over the shoulder is feeling uncomfortable or you're losing your grip, just hold the strap instead. Sometimes in these poses, you may notice emotions that come up like frustration or agitation, anxiety. It may feel linked to the pose, and that may be true. But part of our practice is sort of moving those emotions out of the body, sort of those areas that have been tight and tense all day. And so if you find yourself getting cranky in the body, cranky in the emotions, it may be your pose, but it may just be things you're letting go of from your day, your week. As always, a rest is always available and appropriate, so take it when you need it. And otherwise, we are in this pose only about 3 or 4 more breaths. Alright, so find center, go slow. We're going to do that whole series on side 2. So be honest with yourself. If you really liked that bolster setup, keep it. If it just really wasn't working for you, you're having any discomfort in your lower back, remove it. You can do all the same poses flat on your back. So once you've decided, put the strap over your left leg or however that was making sense for you. It'll be those 2-minute holds again. That right knee can be bent, whether you're flat on your back or not, or you can straighten out. Right away I can tell this is my tighter side. And see if you have started to notice for you. The right side is often the doer side. It's sort of on the front lines. You might be right-handed. You might have a power leg. And so that right side is sort of almost always taking that beating as we move it first. And our left side is more of our receiver side, our nurturing side. Stepping back a little bit, holding back. And so see how that has manifested in the body. Does it feel tighter, weaker, or is it about the same? You can explore driving through the right heel if it's straight. Okay. So we're opening out to the left. Again, you can just hold the strap or do it any way you'd like. I'm going to throw it over the shoulder like it's a purse. Hand under the head like a sit-up. Set my timer. My right leg is still straight. Nice and coordinated here. So the time is important. One, we're keeping everything the same, so we know that any difference we feel is just our own perception. But just like I said in the beginning, when we feel safe and grounded, we tend to relax. So if you know there's a time limit, you know I'm just not talking and forgetting about you, your body knows that you're safe. It starts to give in a little bit, relax. Maybe you close the eyes and just feel the whole sense of the body melting down. Some of you are reaching the right arm behind you, continuing that whole right side stretch. Last breath here. Okay, so the last of the series, bring your leg to center. Switch hands, cross it over in a way that works for you. Again, you can move it over the right shoulder, or you can just hold it like I am. Last 2 minutes here. Now in any of these poses, but maybe this one specifically, if you feel this is too buzzy in your glute or behind your knee, you might be overstretching the sciatic nerve. We don't want to damage that nerve or the sheath around it in any way. So if you feel that buzzy, just bend your knee a little bit. Don't push so hard through the heel. And you can always enjoy a rest. There's that second side again. It's tighter. How about you? And sometimes those differences are subtle. You just may notice your breath again changing. Maybe you feel less comfortable getting into the pose. Maybe you feel bored or your mind wanders. All those are subtle clues. There's something going on. About 4 breaths left. All right. So slowly come to center. Set your foot down, knees are bent. If you have this prop underneath you, you can lift your hips up and remove it. Lower your hips to the ground. And then we'll do one last pose here on our back. So you're on your back, and we'll kind of combine it all. So cross your right ankle over your left knee like you're moving back into figure 4. I'm going to thread the needle. But you're going to take your whole leg unit and drop it to the left. And I like to hold on to my right foot with the left hand, kind of slide it up a little bit. I want that right knee to open away from me. So again, I'm moving into the front of the hip, the top of the thigh. Make any changes you need here to your pose. If this isn't for you, any other twist is fine. We'll be here, we'll say about 2.5 minutes because we've done a lot of this work already. You can work on reaching the right arm behind you to get more of that side body length. As you close the eyes, just feel the collective experience that we're sharing. You may not see your neighbors, you may not know them next to you on your mat. We've all chosen to do this in this community experience. And so even if you can see them or not, this shared experience, this consciousness is with us all. And so you may feel that subtle encouragement from those around you, or even permission to back off if that makes more sense for you. Maybe it's you that has that extra energy and you can send that out to your neighbors. And always imagine it like this symbiotic breath. Your neighbors are sending you energy as you breathe that in. And as you exhale, you're sending out your energy to those around you. And this give and take, we sort of help each other out. I'll pull a little bit more when you need help. And give it back to you when you need it. Okay. In a couple of breaths, the timer's going to go off, but I'm going to direct us out of this pose into something different. So if you're here, even if you're not when the timer goes off, just sort of wait and I'll give you some options. Okay, so if you're in this figure 4 twist, what we're going to do is straighten the bottom left leg. We're going to roll over onto your belly towards the left. And we're going to take this right leg and it's coming into a bit of a half frog. So you're on your forearms, the right leg is hiked up into a half frog. I'm actually going to grab some props. You could use your bolster, but for me that might be a little much. So I'm just going to take maybe a blanket underneath just to give me a little bit of height. So you're in a half frog. If you feel like deepening this, you want to do a full frog, go for it. Whatever you'd like. We'll be here 2 minutes. I'm going to add one more thing if this is okay for you. Let's get our time going. So you can stay here. You can stay on your forearms in your half frog. You can adjust where that blanket or leg is if you want to go in or out. You can use your bolster if you want more height. But let's see if we can take our right arm and weave it underneath, and then take the left arm and weave it across. So you start to get into the upper body. I like to think like I'm going to give myself a hug, or I'm going to wrap up my arms. So we're not only in that leg, but we are in our shoulders as well. And my focus today, or on this pose, is the right shoulder. So if you want to use your left hand to hold your head or not have as much weight, that's fine. Just commit to stillness. We have less than a minute left. Same thing, if you feel that buzziness in the shoulder, back off some. If it's a dull ache, usually we can work through that. We've got just a couple breaths. Okay, so go slow. We're going to come out of our pretzel kind of specifically. So you're going to keep the right leg where it is. Left arm underneath and just lie onto your back into a nice twist for a few breaths. We won't be here the full 2 minutes. We've done a lot of twisting. Let's just take a couple of breaths to resettle. All right. Find your way to center on your back. And we'll do those couple of poses again. So on this side, start with your figure 4 leg. So cross your left ankle over your right knee. And again, all we're doing is dropping the leg to the right. That figure 4 twist, or you've chosen your own version. So if you did something else on side 1, that might make sense here. We're back to the 2.5 minutes. Sometimes I hesitate on telling you how long we're in a pose, because for some of you that may feel like an eternity. Oh, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes. And so already with the knowing of the time, there's an expectation. And so sometimes if we don't know, we have no expectations, and so we have to really just be present with what our experience is. You can reach the left arm back if you'd like. And then you can imagine sort of that saran wrap that surrounds the body. I like to think of the fascia. Remember airports? I used to go to airports, and you would go to that machine and it would wrap up your suitcase. I never did it, but I saw people and they would just wrap it all up in saran wrap. Well, let's imagine our whole body is like that. We've got that layer surrounding the whole body. That's pretty tight, right? So let's imagine that we could just deeply stretch. And we can imagine if we have that plastic and it starts to morph, it starts to yield. We want to find that same expression here. So where is that plastic starting to morph? Where is it starting to yield? The timer goes off, we're moving slow. And straighten that bottom right leg. As you roll onto your belly on the right side, you're going to take that bent knee and you're going to move it into a half frog, whatever that looks like for you. Just take a moment, get yourself set up. Wind this down to 2 minutes. And then this may be it, or we have that pretzel pose again. We can wind up our arms. And so moving that left arm underneath, the right arm in front. You can stay just with the elbows bent. You can try to give yourself a hug, or even let the forehead melt. It's too extreme to have the weight with both hands. Your right hand can help you rest your head. Otherwise, we have 1 minute left, 60 seconds. And the last few breaths, about 5. All right. Now move slow. Remember, we're going to move into that gentle twist. So your leg is already where we want it. Right arm underneath. Take that left arm over in just a moment. We'll finally sit up here in just a moment. So just give yourself a chance to settle. And then bring yourself onto your back and just pause a moment. Whenever you'd like to come up to seated, you can rock up or gently roll up. Okay, how we doing? So a lot of this, I don't know about you, but Sukhasana, double pigeon are very challenging poses for me. So a lot of what we just did was really helpful for me to get into these deeper hip openers. So you can sit on a blanket or not. We'll be here 5 minutes, but halfway through I'll give you your chance to change if you'd like. We're approaching the end of our poses here. All right, so timer's going. I'm crossing middle of the shins. So notice I'm not crossing at the ankles, which makes my legs look like a heart. I'm crossing middle of the shins. And I'm trying to get my legs nice and square. So flexing the feet, trying to bring the knees over the ankles. I'm going to grab some blocks in case I feel like shifting forward. If this is not for your knees, you're over this kind of movement we've been doing this whole time, single pigeon is fine, or any other hip opener. If you are really craving something like Gomukhasana, shoelace, you can take those. Otherwise, get set up. About halfway through, I might attempt double pigeon. We'll see where I'm at. You can sit up tall or you can fold. It just depends on how you're feeling in your back, hips, and knees. Yin also develops patience. I think we're developing a lot of patience these days. A lot of things that we do are very quick and timely, right? 10 seconds, 30 seconds. There's nothing that's very long. And so holding something for 5 minutes can feel like a really long time, but it can also be a really great introduction to a short meditation. In about 30, 40 seconds, I'll move to double pigeon. You're always welcome to move there ahead of time. I'll just do the halfway moment. Now for double pigeon, you can stay exactly as you are in Sukhasana, or stack your foot on top of your knee. This bottom foot tends to slip in, so keep it so that it's stacked. You can sit on a blanket. I've decided not to, but you can see, or maybe you can't because my pants are black, but I have a lot of space here. So I'm going to put a little prop, I'm going to use a blanket in between, just so that I have something supporting me. And we've done a lot of work for this, but this still can be a really challenging pose. So Sukhasana as before, or double pigeon as I am now. If none of these are your options, do your own hip opener. Knees are happy, you're welcome to shift forward. And we're on our last 2 minutes. So see if you can fully meditate through this. I'll be quiet here just a moment so you can really just connect to your own breath. These last 90 seconds, can you count the breath like you're counting sheep? Fully let go of any tension, even if that means backing off some. Curl the jaw, curl the wrists. Okay, you might be tempted to go fast, but move slow. And before you do, take a mental note, which leg is on top or in front? That's what we want to remember for side 2. Give yourself a moment. Whew, how'd we do? Some of us better than others. Okay, let's finish with side two. So the other leg in front or on top. So we did 5 minutes. We started with Sukhasana first. Or at least I did. So do whatever you did before or whatever makes sense for you. The timer's already going. And see if you can just really let gravity take over. Get out of the idea of where you think you're supposed to be. Like, for example, leaning forward. Maybe gravity for you and your ability to really release is sitting tall, eyes closed. Find that place where jaw starts to slack, eyes soften. And you're riding the edge, but not quite pushing past it. Start to lengthen your exhales. The inhale might be for 4 or 5 counts, but let the exhale be for 7 or maybe even 10 counts. All right, a few more breaths and then we'll move this deeper. So you can stay as you are, or maybe you're adding foot on top of knee, knee on top of foot. Again, it's not my pose right away, so I like to add props. Never last 2.5 minutes. Use this as a meditation. I'll be quiet these last 2 minutes. See if you can just fully focus on settling into the pose. Use the breath to ground. Sides are different. All right, saved by the bell. I don't know about you, but that was a really tough side for me. Okay, so we have one final pose and then we move into Shavasana, and I'm going to give you options because I'd like you to just choose what makes sense for you and your body. So a few options can be a wide-legged split leg stretch, which I think I'm just going to stay in because this makes sense for me right now. You can take a seated forward fold with both legs straight. And if you have some wall space, you can even do legs up the wall. So maybe even happy baby. So take something that just feels like it really completes your practice. A few of you might even like plow. But I am going to have the timer on this. We'll do 3 minutes, not 5, we'll do 3 minutes. And then we'll end with a 3-minute Shavasana. Hopefully you felt a bit more grounded. I find this practice being on our back a lot longer, sort of having this bigger surface area to the earth, sort of reminds the body to settle and relax, along with releasing those hip flexors and hamstrings. And really, it's our ability to let go. And sort of go with the flow, to be more responsive, less reactive. So when those moments of stress come up, we can step back from them, we can observe them, we can breathe through them. And 90 seconds left. Come out early, we're meeting in Shavasana. We'll be there a little less than a minute. So take your time coming out of your pose. Do whatever else you need. If you need a little massage or a final twist. And let's get ourselves set up in Shavasana. If you want to stay with legs at the wall, those of you that are there, go for it. Make your Shavasana comfortable, whatever that means for you. And I encourage you to add layers, maybe your extra blankets or your layers of clothes, your eye pillows if you have one, which is a really great way to sort of shut out the outside world once and for all, these final moments. And we've arrived 3 minutes, Shavasana. Start to move fingers and toes. Arms overhead, maybe yawn again. Truly letting the nervous system know that you've relaxed. Bend your knees, roll to your side. And as you're ready, press upright to seated. A moment just to notice all the space that you've created in the body, the mind, the breath. And let's seal it in. Lift the heart. Bow the head. Namaste.